as an art historian, I've spent a lot of time studying the art of Henri Matisse, who's well known for his extensive use of patterning to evoke sort of like different energies and states of mind. All the invisible stuff going on around Go. It's like the game is this kind of vehicle between two people, like it's a channel through which they're communicating. It's so interesting to me because it's sort of, there's all of these different kinds of patterns going on, and it really reminds me of like a loom kind of framework that is like threading all of these different strands, attention and personalities and society. Something that struck me about this exhibition is the way that people relate to the game of Go physically and bodily. I think in the museum world, I'm used to having to counter the idea that, like we talked about visual art, that art is something like for your eyes. I think the Go exhibition, it's so obvious that Go isn't only for your eyes. It's not just a visual activity. It's something multisensory and social that involves you with other people around you. Very striking and immediately kind of different from a lot of the visual art exhibitions that I'm used to seeing around me. I love the idea of this Go tournament that you're planning. It's not just like a set of precious objects. It's this thing that you can do, and when you play the game, like you're doing this thing that other people have been doing for such a long time, that experience, like understanding that when you play the game that you're connecting to this much longer tradition and history is really powerful, and is part of why I think that sounds like such a fantastic program.
I am really interested in changing views of Go over time. So I came into this learning experience having studied philosophy and economics at Harvard, and I had some awareness of this sub-area of philosophy called the philosophy of games. So this American philosopher, C.T. Wynn, actually wrote about this and went on a podcast where he talked about the gamification of everyday life. So it's not just informal board games or card games, but also if we think about social media, the way in which we rack up points when we score more likes on a photo, or if people wear fitness tracking watches, they also gamify the way in which we participate in physical activity. And I think that in the same way, Go has experienced a lot of changing views, and we saw that range on full display with this exhibition, which I think is fantastic. So I loved the outline that we saw of the interns tour about materials behind Go boards. And I learned a lot about how materials can reveal the players behind Go. So we see different materials for, say, people of imperial status versus commoners, but it also revealed interesting international connections. So maybe materials were sourced from unexpected places. So I thought that tour will be a really effective introduction to this exhibition. I know that one part of this show is talking about the ecosystem of games that Go is a part of. And it's also a way for, I think, young people to experience agency, because they're able to think about what move they're going to do next, what's going to be the arc of their play throughout this Go game. And I think that's really empowering. I think every day we ask ourselves questions when we feel certain emotions. Should I cultivate this emotion? Should I suppress it? And so I think that's a very specific philosophy that's taught through Go games, this sort of stoicism, calm, meditation. And I think it's up to the viewer and up to each and every one of us to think about, is that something that I also endorse? Do I agree that this is the sort of temperament that I should cultivate? And I think this Go exhibition is going to spark some really interesting conversations about that topic.
Yeah, for me, one of the most striking aspects of the exhibition that I saw was how audience-centered it was. Because I think when you're dealing with a game like Go that has such like a rich cultural heritage and such a strong history here, especially cool because you had so many different characters and so many different like ways of interacting with it. And I think there was also like some kind of like app component you mentioned as well that was kind of in the works, or some kind of digital interactive element. So I think that's a great way of engaging people from different backgrounds. The exhibition you guys have on Go is so interesting to me because I think games are something that kind of transcend cultures and transcend borders. And when I think about games that are predominant in like African American culture and African American history, athletics really come to mind, particularly professional athletics, sports like basketball and sports like baseball that become cultural heroes for, entire cities and entire regions. These board games aren't, predominantly played by children, and they also aren't predominantly done for leisure. They're done as kind of an intellectual exercise. So I think that's why children surprise me as being very actively engaged in Go, just because that it has this kind of really shared important cultural value. It's something that is accessible to everyone in society, and everyone kind of, has a seat at the table, so to speak, to play the game.
Well, thank you so much for having me and having us. It's so fun to be here and to have this exchange. I basically knew nothing about Go coming into this. And so it was like really cool to learn about what actually Go is and to see that it has such a long history and it's represented in the collection. The most interesting things that I learned were from the interns because it was really cool to see it through these themes. And I feel like, coming from a tour guide's perspective, a theme is so important for understanding works of art. And so I really was captivated by each tour theme. I personally am very interested in, so the first one that we heard from was about materials and also the nicknames thing. That was so interesting, again, like the literature side of the history and literature. I'm always interested in the way like metaphors and sort of visual imagery is incorporated into language. And I think, film and cinema loves those high stakes and conflict. And I think most recently, in my mind, was The Queen's Gambit. It was a great representation of chess. And I really loved that show, and I think it was really well done. The chess game was like really exciting to see on camera, and you think it might not be because you could just be like watching these game pieces. But because it's actually so evocative of like high stakes conflict and strategy, it makes for a really interesting film. And so to have it in an exhibition, I think it's really interesting to sort of see how that history plays out across time and to see like maybe what it means for sort of politics